Well, feel free to ask any questions, suggest any
Okay.
improvements. Alright, I think we're live. Hello to everybody tuning in. I've been spending a few hours each week on this docs generator tool. I don't know if you're familiar with it or with what I've been doing previously. Should I go over that or just prefer?
If you liked, I will be delighted to hear.
Alright, so in the current Python grammar, let me try to find that. Oh, I don't have that open, do I? Oh, here it is. So in the current Python grammar, there's the Python language reference, which has grammar snippets like this. I guess you've seen that before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm aware of that.
And they're handwritten and they don't actually match the Python grammar, which is this one, or rather a file in grammar called python.gram. So this is the actual grammar that Python uses, and the current docs are handwritten. Sometimes they're updated, sometimes they're not updated when the grammar changes. A lot of the time they're simplified, easier to read. This one is faster to parse. Yeah, so I've been trying to replace the handwritten grammar by something that can be generated from the grammar file directly.
Oh, cool.
And the current state is that everything is replaced in my branch of the docs. So when I show something like locally here, that's the tool output. Sometimes I left the previous thing in, like in here. So when there's when I'll show two snippets, so the first one is from the tool and the second one is left from what was there before. So if I look at simple statements in the source, so here's the source. So the tool I'm writing adds this grammar snippet directive, and it generates generates all of this.
That's cool. Yeah.
So it says it was generated by something. That's always good to have when auto-generating stuff. And then there's the grammar snippet, and this is what you'll find in the current grammar.
I see. Thanks. By the way, maybe you need to start the event on Discord because so people can see you are live.
Oh, right. Start event. Does that do anything or just...
Yeah, it works.
Oh, it turns stuff green. Nice.
Yeah. So people get the notification and they can jump in.
Okay. All right. So the tool is quite long, unfortunately. It does have some to-dos and stuff like that. And most of it is a class hierarchy for all the grammar nodes. I decided to use my own class hierarchy because I need to do a lot of simplification of the rules to make them easier to read. And the classes in the actual parser aren't really made for simplification. So, last time I went through the rest of the documentation and saw that the tool is mostly as good as it'll get, for at least for the initial commit and for it's as good as it'll get if I don't want to change the actual grammar to make it more readable. I'll still want to do better line wrapping, so it's not as good as it'll get, and maybe some more simplification, but then I'll look into sending the pull request for initially adding the tool and maybe changing one part of the documentation, like this top level components, which only has 3 of these snippets, would be a good first part to get the tool introduced. But first I want to get rid of this future top level rules set, which is a set of rules that should be documented somewhere in the docs. As I was introducing these new grammar snippets, I was filling this up with stuff I want to do later, and now that everything is done here, I want to start getting rid of them. So I'll do that. If you have any questions, just ask. So if I get rid of statement here, I see in this div, which is easier, faster to generate than rebuilding the docs, I see that it changed something in compound statements and top level statements. And what it did is it inlined statement here. Right, so it seems this statement wasn't actually documented before. And if I look at top level components now, this looks rather easy, but the new version actually put in what a statement looks like. So it turns out statement isn't actually documented anywhere in the docs, and it should probably be documented. So it says compound. This is a statement, right? So that's either a compound statement or a simple statement, or simple statements separated by semicolons. And I think this would be best put in simple statements. Probably in a new section somewhere here. So if I go to simple statements, I will want to probably put it even before simple statements here.
But are those kind of like alias, like convenient alias for the grammar, or you believe that I mean, when do you draw the line, right? Because I guess as people can get creative and start to group many things just to simplify the grammar of some specific statement itself. So is this an alias only? Or
no,
because I don't.
Statement is a rule in the grammar.
Ah, okay,
so
there.
If you look
okay.
at the full grammar specification, there it is. That's statement.
Right.
So it's either
okay, so it's
statement
rules.
or simple statements, and simple statements is this, where one part is there for speed up. So what this tool does is it can inline this simple statements into here. So if we look back in here, it says like the statement is either a compound statement or all of this, right? So if you compare it to the grammar, it's compound statements or simple statements. So instead of this simple statements,
right,
it's written out and inlined.
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious because I was aware of statement, but I didn't know that it was not documented. So I thought that somehow you. But okay, good to know. Good to know.
It might have been. it probably is documented somehow, but
Hidden
the
somewhere, yeah.
handwritten grammar in the docs is different than the actual Python grammar.
Right. Now I
It's
get your point. Okay.
not exactly kept in sync. So it might have been documented somewhere else, but when I replaced, every part of the grammar with similar actual grammar, it turns out I missed a statement, and that's okay, I guess, because when I removed the special casing from the tool, when I said, no longer assume that statement is documented somewhere, it went ahead and inlined all of statement into the places where it's used.
Right.
Right. So the tool will also, if there's some statements that can be inlined, like in here, this is very complicated. So this uses star target, and the tool noticed that star target isn't defined anywhere, so it includes star target in here. Right? I don't specifically tell the tool to put the definition of star target in this thing, but it sees that it needs it and it's not documented anywhere else, so it pulls it in here. Or it might inline it, but because it's used in more places here, it'll add it as its own rule. Right, so that's statement. And right, I probably want to put in some prose before that. Right, I haven't been really touching the prose around the grammar snippets. That'll come in the individual pull requests. Right, so we need to define statement. All of the other ones are probably documented somewhere nowadays. So let's do the next one. And that, from the diff, I can see that this with item wasn't explicitly documented before, but it looks like it goes nicely with the with statement here. Right, so before in my new copy of the docs, the with statement was just one line. Now it has this this with item in here, and I don't think it's needed anywhere else, so that's the place it should be. And with item needs star target, and star target apparently is now in multiple places. So with item needs star target, and what else needs star target? What's the best way to find out? Maybe look for it in the new. So previously it was documented together with star target, so that's probably the best place for it. So in simple statements, so this tells the tool to generate documentation for star targets, star atoms, star targets tuple sequence, and I guess it needs star target as well. So I'm saying this is the place to document that, everything else should link here. Right, Right, so I put it in its proper place. And now I have this T primary that I just removed from the big list, which should be documented in one of these places that needs it, right? So it's needed in the delete statement, it's needed in single subscript attribute target, whatever that is, it's needed in star targets, and that's about it. So where should T primary be documented? Maybe the best place for it is so T primary looks like it implements dot attribute access, getting items with the square brackets, calling things. These are both function calls, so it's probably best documented together with the subscript here. Assignment statements. Let's look at, this is, feels like it should be somewhere in expressions, maybe. Let's look at how expressions work. There's primary, but this is different. This is T primary. How is T primary different from primary? Let me put T primary together with this primary here and look at the generator documentation. Hello, Sphinx. So, T primary is exactly the same as primary,
with a different order, right?
with a different order.
Yay, that code. So, what could go wrong? Just replace all the T primaries by primaries.
There's probably a very good reason for this. But this is
Could
fine.
it be precedence? For some reason to react differently? I don't know.
So the PEG grammar, the new style of grammar for Python, actually tries the first alternative first, and if this matches, then it doesn't go for the others. So if the grammar is ambiguous, the order matters. Or if the grammar would otherwise be ambiguous, the order matters. I don't think that's the case in here, because generator expression has to start with the brace, and generator expression and the other, or the parentheses, and generator expression and the other parentheses are in the same order. So these should be functionally equivalent. And I don't know if we should just teach the tool to say primary and T primary are equivalent. I think it's better to do it like this and then write in the prose that primary and T primary are the same thing, and they're just different for optimization. Because that would make this more useful to somebody who then reads the full grammar specification and tries to find T primary in there. Or maybe we can, somehow tell the tool to rename primary to T primary. But this is fine. Doesn't need to change. I will need to change the prose for this, but I think this this grammar snippet is perfect as it is. So with those two lines of things removed, there's quite a big diff now. There's with ident primary statement start target all documented. I'll get that in Git just to make the diffs more useful. So now decorators, type parameters, and function def. Let's see what that changed. So in function def, decorators got inlined. So if I look at compound statements, in the function definition, I have decorators. Oh, and Sphinx doesn't like this. Duplicate definition of default, apparently. Right, so this decorators is probably best best as its own rule. It's quite a nice name, decorators. So I will tell the tool to put decorators in here, which will put decorators on its own line. Now it succeeded. So now I have decorators, now it's a link, and decorators are on their own line. With the name it's much easier. I mean, function definition on its own is quite confusing because of the argument grammar, which is just unreadable.
Exactly.
But yeah, the solution for the grammar here is just to say, don't look here, read the prose, and concentrate on making things clear in there. Right, next up, all these other statements. So removing all of those didn't change anything. That's great. Match statement, Nathan expression. We're still down to this. Bitwise or f-string replacement. Feel that changed something. So let me put this in Git and again have a clean slate. So strings should probably get their own entry. literal expression probably should as well. Oh, an f-string replacement field should only be documented in one place. So f-string replacement field should probably go somewhere together with strings, and that should be in expressions. Do we have strings somewhere? Atoms. So strings are
But it was in that list at the top. The fourth or fifth, yeah.
yeah, but it's not a link, it's not documented anywhere else.
Ah, right, so it's not right.
It should be. So there's literals, and this is the old grammar because we don't really have this in the new grammar. Well, string literals, byte literals, in all the numbers are just included in the big list. So nowadays f strings are handled in the grammar, not in the tokenizer. So when I click string literal here, it takes me to lexical analysis. But nowadays strings should really have their own section. So atoms, identifiers, literals. We need a new section for strings here. Section, and make a grammar snippet with strings. And I also want the f-string replacement field thing in here. So if I save that, refresh, that'll get generated here, and sometimes things will. Oh, title level inconsistent. Ah dear. I need to have the right kind of underline.
Yeah.
So it
I always
should be
forget
the same kind
that.
of underline as this, and that's. Ooh, wouldn't have guessed that one. There's probably a standard for it.
I saw there is a list, there's one of these cheat sheets
Yeah.
for the priority, but I always confuse them all.
So Sphinx wants them to be consistent, and there is a standard sequence nowadays in the dev guide, but I don't think much of the all of the existing documentation uses it. Right, so now we have strings, and this is quite complicated actually. It'll be better once it's wrapped a bit better. Yeah. Should have some pros around it, but we're not here for pros now. This is how it should be. Now the other thing removed here was literal expression, which apparently I wonder where that's used. If I go to the full grammar specification, literal expression is only used in key value pattern. So I guess it should be documented together with that in compound statements. In here, so instead of all of this, it gets broken out. Let's see how that looks. Ooh. Default is there twice now? Oh, default should be documented together with parameters. So where do we document parameters? Function definitions. So default should be in here and not anywhere else. Right, so default was documented in function definitions and also in lambda definitions, which are similarly hairy. So it should be documented in one place only. Alright, let's go back to compound statements and see. This literal expression looks much better like this, with a name here. Signed number is a literal pattern. Yep, that looks good. Sphinx is happy. Let's see if start expression and argument give us some more changes. Yeah, they do. So I'll first put this in Git. Go on. So removing start expressions, we'll just inline that with a star and an expression, which is okay. I don't need this as its own named rule if it just says if it just names what is here. Removing the next line didn't change anything. That's great. The next line again didn't change anything. Perfect. Next line change nothing. These are all documented directly. Probably. Yep. And I need to keep this as set. Great. I'll probably need to keep this logic in when I create the pull request. I'll just put all the top level rules that aren't in the initial pull requests in here. This is done for now, and it's time to tackle this to-do here, which is better line wrapping. So some of the lines are very long, and would be nice to somehow wrap them. which is an algorithm I haven't really made before.
Introducing black for Python grammar.
Yes, black for Python grammar. So let's find some example that will do this on. This is probably too complicated, but it might be good to.
I mean, simplistically, I guess that most of the long ones is because they have many pipe operators. So I guess that will be an easy one.
So what I already do is when there's a choice, or when the pipe operators are on the top level, it gets broken out into several lines like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that is handled specially here. So if the node I'm formatting is a choice and it's longer than 40 characters, then each alternative is on its own line. And there's actually a special syntax for this in the Python grammar, which is the first choice begins with a pipe, and that doesn't mean that there's an empty choice here, right? It's just there to align everything in the same way. Does that make sense?
And can you somehow mark that node that you already are following that rule, in case, for example, within the one of those statements there is another pipe operator, so you can break that with a different indentation level, so they have kind of like the same pipe but one indentation space on inside?
So if I'm doing this, doing this recursively and going deeper, I probably don't want to limit myself to pipes, because I will need to recurse into like braces here, and those will add some indentation. So but what I was explaining is, like, if you look at the parameter list here, it starts with something, and then it breaks, and then it has this pipe here. But if you look at parameters here, it starts with this empty line and then aligns everything below it. So that's a special feature of the Python grammar syntax, or the meta syntax of the Python grammar. And I think Guido invented that for Python. Someone from the team, just to make it easier to read. I haven't really seen it anywhere else. I think it's documented in here. Yeah, the first alternative can also appear on the line after the rule for formatting purposes. Okay, so re-implementing black. Let's see. We probably need to need a better idea of how much space we have here. So currently I just look at 40 characters, and if it's bigger than that, I try to break the lines. But let's see how many characters we actually have.
Just a random question there. So the current topic, well, the current topic the theme that we use for the docs, why we're cutting the width at this random width there? Because there's always a space on the side. I understand it. If you watch this thing on your mobile phone, it's okay, but all the space that you have on the right side.
Apparently, it's easier to read.
Okay.
So there's a long-standing typographical rule that lines should be, I don't know how many characters.
80 maybe? I don't know. Does look like 80. I don't know, I was always struggling because I understood the proper width of the documentation, but I would have had liked to have that center, like this page, for example, rather than everything to the left side. But yeah, it's just a matter of taste. I was just curious.
So if you're typesetting a traditional book, apparently the line length should be 45 to 90 characters. And that's like centuries of typographical practice behind that number. So that's what's easiest to read,
Right.
right?
Yeah, no, I agree. If we allow that thing to be super long, like 200 characters, the grammar will not be clearer. So
Now code is different, but this is for like for prose for this, and I guess the code should match. And PEP8 uses 8 characters, 80 characters.
for code, right? So 6 something for
Yeah, so
docs.
this is
72.
code. Yeah, limit everything to 80 characters. For long blocks of texts, you should limit to 72 characters. I don't know anybody who follows this because I can set up my editor to show the 80 character column mark, but
I follow that.
can't really.
I have a configure.
Really, you can put in another one. Yeah.
On
So
my Vim, I have 3 rules. Yeah, mainly for that: documents, doc strings, comments, code, and also a proper extension because it's PEP8 established that you can agree to have a longer. We have an internal like 100 of hard limit of columns, but yeah.
yeah, it says it's okay to increase the length limit up to 99 characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's black, which limits to, I don't know, 88 or some random number like that. Anyway, yeah, having several files open side by side is a great feature to have.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah, 80 characters is enough, I would say, and since it's a standard, it's a good thing to use. So I see in the in my browser, the line is actually 85 characters. In other browsers, it'll probably be slightly different, but I assume 80 is a good limit. Now a lot of that is taken up by these names, and Sphinx doesn't really allow us to, for example, start this on the next line. For that we would need to change Sphinx. I don't really want that. So this is what we have left, and we'll try to fit the text in that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I haven't really looked at how black does things. Is there a definition of what it does? Guides. Integrations. Oh, black code style. Here it is, of course. The black code style. So black ignores previous formatting. Obviously, we don't really retain formatting either. Do what makes Pycode style happy. Okay, whatever. Bragg tries to render one full expression or simple statement per line. If this fits in the allotted line length, then great. Okay, that's good. If not, Black will look at the contents of the first outer matching brackets and put that in a separate indented line. First outer matching brackets. If that still doesn't fit, it'll decompose the internal expression further using the same rule, indenting matching brackets every time. Okay, it looks good. Guido doesn't really like this frowny face that Black makes, but algorithmically, I think it's very easy to
Easy to
use.
parse, yes.
And when reading the code, it's also fine. I mean, this allows us to have the same indentation here and here, and still have the blocks separate. If you put this parenthesis at the end here, then it's better to indent this by something else than 4 spaces. Or you can also put it like here, but then it's also not clear that this block is ending and this one is starting. So personally, I like this very much. I don't really use Black, but I put my parentheses at the start like this, unless there's some other style guide I should follow. Now, Black prefers parentheses over backslashes and will remove backslashes. Don't have backslashes in the grammar. Black defaults to 88 characters per line, which no. Avoid spurious vertical line space. That makes sense. Trailing commas. We don't really have commas in the grammar. And I would say that if we can't break a line, then we just make it long and put in the scroll bar. That's fine. Okay, so I would guess a simplified algorithm would be to see if whatever we're formatting fits in the remaining space, and if it doesn't fit and it's something that we can decompose, then we put the starting parentheses, if there's any, on the current line, and then indent the individual parts, and then put the closing parenthesis on its own line. I wonder how that'll work. Wait. Well, let's see how that'll work. Not really sure. Not really sure I can put it into code at the first try. So get rid of this. This yields line by line. So we have this format method on each line, and we'll probably need a new format lines. So instead of this, in here I'll have for line in node format lines, yield the line. Right. Does this code make sense? Should I explain it first?
At least the lower part works, but I mean, format lines is something that you will implement now, right?
So I will implement now. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the format gives you the node as a string.
Yeah, as a string.
This one has choice, which well. It first yields the name and then the individual lines. I do need to yield the name here, and that goes before the first line, and all the other ones should be prefixed by some spaces and a colon, right? So I will need to enumerate these lines, and if I'm on the first line, which is line number 0, then I will yield the name of the rule, colon, and the line itself. Otherwise, I omit the name here and have some spaces. So it's read back by Sphinx, so I don't really need to align it visually for humans. And the other thing I will need is an argument for format lines. How much space do we have? And that will depend. Where were we here? That will depend. This is the best one. On the longest rule that we are documenting, minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or plus 6, and subtract that from the 80 that we have altogether. So I need to find the longest name of all the rules. So longest name is the maximum of the keys of the rule set when taking in sorted by their length, right? Available space is 80 characters minus the length of this longest name minus and let's put in the separator, whoops, to make it clear what this one is. Is that clear enough? I don't think it needs a comment.
It's clear.
Alright, so there we go. This will tell me sequence has no attribute format lines, so every node here should have format lines. And I guess that'll just return format for now. Oh, yield format. It returns format, that's the sequence of the individual characters. I just want a sequence with one thing. Right, and that removed the previous formatting of the choices. So let's try to bring that back. So format lines for choice. That will give, so I will start with the simple format, which is this, and if the length of this thing is smaller or equal, I guess, to these columns, then I yield that. Otherwise, for each choice, I will yield for each choice, I will want to format lines on it with this this pipe in front of the first line. So this would be for line in format lines of the choice, and I'll have 2 fewer columns because there's the pipe and there's a space after it, and I want the pipe before the first line of this representation, right? So again, that if num is 0. I could write if not num, but I think this is more readable in our case of numbering lines.
Yeah, we are not golfing here, so.
Well, Pep8 actually says use not num in these cases, but I'm ignoring the style guide on purpose here.
We need to do some post-production to the video to skip that statement.
Nope. So the Pep8 actually says a lot of things. Right. Does it have? Where's the guidance of the not operator? I hope I didn't lie there. Oh, that definitely says something about comparing to true. Oh, for sequences, you shouldn't do if length sequence. And I guess it doesn't say that for numbers explicitly. That's good. Anyway, it says ignore Pep8 if it makes the code less readable.
Which the 100 of the population here agree so.
Most important part of Pep8. Okay, so let's see how that works.
I will need to drop now, Peter, so
Alright.
For sure I will continue watching the stream afterwards.
No problem. See you around. I see there's some...
Okay, see you around.
Yep. See you. See there are some people on YouTube. If you want to join by voice, we're on the Docs Discord. Where do you find the Docs Discord? There's a link on probably the documentation community meeting. So this is the best link to the Discord. Oh, here it is. So in the documentation, community documentation, there's a link to the Discord server. I'll put that in the YouTube chat so you can join if you want. If you want to ask any questions, please do that by voice, because I can't really monitor the chat. There's a question about what does your code do, but I don't know when it was asked and if it's still relevant, and I would like to explain that to you. But explanation best works if you can have follow-up questions in real time. Anyway, back to this big diff that I just now caused. So it looks like what did this do? It compared to the previous version, which treated the top level choices specially. This puts the initial pipe on the same line as the header, which we don't really want. So maybe what we want is to yield an empty line first, and then yield all the choices. Will that work better? It might. The git diff is highlighting spaces at the end of the line. Let's remove them here. When outputting, here when outputting, want to remove this space if line is empty. Okay, and I missed something. This empty line should be yielded above and here. Okay, so now we just have a very small diff. Slices now fits in one line. Great. Statement now fits in one line. That's perfect. Start target fits in one line. Otherwise it's the same as before, so I think that's an improvement. I will probably need to change this further, but for now I'll put this in Git. Format lines, something like that. Okay, what's next? That didn't really help with things like this. So next up, I probably want to tackle there's this format for precedence and format enclosed, which add parentheses to individual items. I will need to tackle that somehow. But first, let's do some test-driven development here. We have tests right here. This function definition is a sequence that needs to be broken into individual lines. So let's do the same thing as for the choice. There's format lines. Let's do that for sequence, except we will I guess not call this choice but item. And we don't need to add any prefix. To sequences. So that should break up sequences if they're too long. Let's see what it did to function definition. Ooh. That's probably not exactly what I want to do, but it is correct. Yeah, I probably need to follow the black code style a bit better. What did that say it does? Black will look at the contents of the first outer matching brackets and put that in a separate indented line. Yeah, I really need to look into brackets. How do I structure that code? So in here, what would this look like? So if I want to wrap it around here, so black will look at the contents of the first matching bracket, and I guess that would be this, and it will put the contents into its own lines like this. And that still doesn't fit the bill, so it would do that. And continue. But this isn't really what we want to do for grammar. Grammar has quite a different syntax from what black does. I assume this is what black would do. Of course, this is not Python syntax, so I can't really run black on it, but the black algorithm, as far as I understand it, will not format grammar in a pretty way. So I need to come up with my own algorithm. What would that be? So what's the best place to break this this block? I would say before this def, but how to find that, I don't know. Before here. Before here. Huh. Probably need to look at some examples. How to break up sequences best. Well, maybe to start I can try filling up the line with individual items. And when we go over the length, the allotted length we have, then take the item to the next line, like do word wrapping, as we would do with text. Maybe that's a good way to do it. So if we can format this simply, that's good. Otherwise, we add things to, let's call to line so far. And if we go over columns, we output the line so far and start a new line. Okay. So let's do that. If the line so far, if the length of the line we have plus the length of the simple formatting of this item is bigger than columns minus 1 is here for space, then we add a space and the simple formatting of the item. Right. Otherwise, if the length of the simple items item is bigger than than the available columns we have. Oh wait, let's do an else here. If the simple formatting of this item would cause us to spill over to the next line, then we yield the line we have and reset it to nothing. Now if the next item is too long to fit in the available columns, then we need to format as lines. And yield those individual lines. Otherwise, we add it to the line so far and continue on. And at the very end, if we have something, then we yield it. Would that break? Would that work? Not really. This is not exactly what I had in mind. So for elif statement, this is breaking a bit too eagerly. There we go, that's better. I want to append the line if their length is smaller than the available space, not bigger than it. And this is actually looking rather nice. Let's look at what it does with this example here. So it does decorators, async, def, name, type params, blah 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 blah. And it doesn't find the best place to break, but it finds some place to break the expressions. So this is okay, I would say. There's some better algorithm hiding in here, or perhaps it would be best to give some hints by hand. But this looks reasonable. Now one problem here is I'll need to handle parentheses and closing as well, right? Because I have this format for precedence method that I think I only define on the top level node, which adds parentheses if they're necessary. And I think I will need the same thing for format lines. I will probably need to format for precedence every time. Well, let's just add a parent precedence to every call of format lines, and the default for parent precedence can be let's say top level. Hopefully this will I'm getting ahead of myself, am I not? Well, here is what I'll do. I will end the stream here because I'm just getting lost thinking about it, and I need to think about it on my own. I don't think doing this publicly is really helpful for anyone. Unlike the case where I could talk to a person on the stream and bounce ideas off someone. So I will think about this in private and come back next week and explain what I came up with in a bit more structured way to not waste all of your time. Sounds like a best way to go for this, because there's really two things to consider here. One is adding the parentheses where they need to go, and the other one is then breaking the lines, and those need to be combined, and I'm not sure what the best way to combine those will be. This thing looks pretty broken right now. Yeah, I need to experiment a bit, so I'll be back next week and I'll tell you what I came up with. Thank you for sticking around this long. Feel free to join next time if you want. See you for now.